Hello, I'm Colleen Gallagher, CEO at Onward and Upward, and you're listening to the Association Insights podcast, where each week we interview association leaders from across the country to hear how they're trying new things, taking big risks, and delivering value for their members. We'll explore the realities of what it means to work in and with associations and bring you the insights and inspiration you need to advance your career and make big changes at your association. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Association Insights podcast. I'm your host, Colleen Gallagher, and today we're continuing our conversation around sponsorships, partnerships, and non-dues revenue. I'm really excited for today's guest joining us. We have Leah Lang, who serves as the Senior Director for Partnerships and Corporate Engagement at EDUCAUSE. She's responsible for the strategic leadership and operational oversight of EDUCAUSE's corporate engagement and partner work. She leads their initiatives for corporate members, sponsors, and partner relations, as well as the organization's broader partner strategies and initiatives. By working closely with the higher ed community and staying current on trends in higher ed IT, and technology in general, Leah ensures that IT leaders have the insight they need to implement and maintain effective technology solutions. Leah, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to see you.
Awesome. So for our listeners who know Bruce Rosenthal or maybe heard him on our show before, you know he's quite a leader on this topic. And I reached out to him when we decided to do this series to say, who in the association world do I need to talk to? And he said, you must talk to Leah. So we're happy to have you.
Well, that's so nice to hear. I'm glad. Bruce, I found Bruce when I was actually interviewing for this position at EDUCAUSE because I was doing some research around corporate partnerships because it's not my background. And one of his videos popped up and I thought, man, I need to learn everything from this guy.
Yes, exactly. And now he has a book too. So he's got all sorts of good info on this topic. Awesome. Well, to start off, I'd love to just hear more about EDUCAUSE and your role leading partnerships and corporate engagement there too.
Yeah, sure. So EDUCAUSE is a nonprofit association that supports IT professionals in higher education. We have been around for about 30 years and we have lots of really great relationships with other associations in the higher education community and, the industry that supports higher education technology. So my role is around making sure that, my role as I see it anyway, is around making sure our member community gets what they need from industry and from our peer associations so that they can do their jobs the best way.
I love it. So I know in the last few years, you've really reimagined the Cortner Partnership Program there from the ground up. So I guess first, kind of what prompted that change? What were you hoping to solve?
Right. So it was a little bit of a stars aligning situation. I had been with EDUCAUSE for about 11 years. I was in a role that was responsible for researching market trends in higher ed. So I got to learn the industry landscape really well and was always in conversations gathering stats and qualitative feedback about the market from our membership. And it always seemed like there was a tension between industry and higher education, and higher ed folks felt like industry didn't quite understand them very well, or you'd go to an event and people didn't want to go in the exhibit hall because they didn't want to have that sales experience. So a role opened up at EDUCAUSE to lead corporate engagement, and it felt like a great opportunity to help contribute to the solution that I had seen over many years. At the same time, the role was reimagined, and they were looking for somebody to come in and reimagine what corporate engagement looked like at EDUCAUSE. So that was inspiring to me. And then kind of the third piece of the stars aligning was that at the same time, our organization finished a strategic plan that had one main focus on intentionally bringing together higher education and industry to evolve the tech market. So I came into this position having support kind of across to think differently about how we engage industry and develop a sponsorship program that is more in line with bringing people together and collaborating on work versus just core marketing efforts or raising awareness and visibility in our community.
That's amazing. I love that, buy-in at the leadership level and baking it into the strategic plan, because you don't hear that often, but that changes the whole way you approach everything then.
Absolutely. I mean, to have that vision set out for you and to know that you can align your work with that is great. I mean, when I've talked to other people about this, well, what if my association doesn't have that kind of like key pillar? I think, it says work on strategies to bring industry and higher education together to evolve the tech market. It doesn't say sell sponsorships differently or, come up with so it's a matter of creativity, of understanding how your change in strategy on more of a partnership program instead of an a la carte sales program could service any strategic initiative that you have in your organization.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great point, and it's a good way of thinking about it for sure. One thing that struck me is that you really stakeholders and research helped shape and guide the direction of this vision here. And I think that's so important, because then it comes back to that buy-in piece of everyone involved. It's not just you saying, hey, buy this, you want this. But I'd love to know what you learned through that process, and did anything surprise you?
Yeah, I mean, everything surprised me because I was totally new to this role and I hadn't done this work before. So it was really interesting to hear from our corporate community about what could be better for them in terms of, the opportunities we were giving them to engage with EDUCAUSE. I think it was a little surprising to hear that, we had a portfolio of maybe 120 a la carte options and we were doing well financially. But hearing from the corporate community, the stakeholders that we had interviewed, that they were really unsure about their decisions in what was going to be effective when they were making these purchases. So they would buy a webinar, they'd participate in our event, they'd maybe write an article, but they weren't really familiar enough. They weren't familiar enough with the community, and they weren't getting any direct feedback on, what value that provided to the community to know whether or not they should engage with that program again. So when we took a different lens to it and packaged together for them what we thought was going to be most effective for most partners, they were so thankful. They were actually asking for this in the background research before we developed this program. They thought it would just be great if EDUCAUSE told us what we should be doing, and then we have the money to spend, we'll do it. But it's hard for us to know what direction is going to be most effective. And the other thing they really wanted from us was more of a conversation. How can we work together on things? And those bits of feedback were the basis of forming this program.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And that is so important for people looking to make that investment. And when you talk about all those different pieces they could choose from before, it feels very transactional.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you made a real intentional shift to more of this relationship-based partnership. So what does it look like in practice now? And is this a game changer? How does it feel that we've had this new approach?
Yeah, it feels great. Our partners are very happy. I feel like higher ed is kind of coming along and understanding where we're going with these things. But having these deep relationships with these companies where we have a kickoff call every year and we sit down and think about where their focus is and what they want to be helping our community with. And we get to think creatively about projects we could work on together. So every partner engages with EDUCAUSE, in some very specific ways. But because we now call them partners and we've established that relationship, it has really opened the door to do other sorts of work also. And so some of our partners have worked with our research team or our subject matter expert teams to develop resources for our community. And that wasn't even, part of the agreement. It was just, hey, we are able to now come to them with a need and say, our community would really love it if you guys did this for them. What do you think? And they're right there. Oh, thank you for letting us know. Of course we want to do that. How can we help? So we have now 21 organizations who are right there kind of like on the bench whenever we need them to help us with some kind of need that the community has.
That's an amazing testament to a successful program to have those relationships just ready to go and feeling like they want to help you. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know EDUCAUSE is really well known for your commitment to this advancing higher ed through technology and data. When we talk to associations, everything always comes back to that mission of this is what we do and this is who we are at our core. So when you guys were working on this new partnership model, how did you make sure it came back to that mission of supporting and advancing higher ed?
Yeah, so this is a little bit of, I feel like because of where I started in our organization, and I was on more of the member side of providing a product for our member community. I come from higher education, so I really think with the member in mind first, with our higher education member in mind and what they need. We're here to support technology in higher education. And so that constituency is going to be able to tell us what they need and what's best for higher education. And so if we try to do a really good job of staying in touch with what they're saying they need. We have a community group, an online forum where they're always talking to each other about different technology concerns, or if, a company becomes acquired and it changes a licensing model, they'll talk about it. And so we always get a bird's eye view into the challenges that the higher ed leaders are facing. And then we're able to, use that information to go out to the corporate community and align with the needs of the member. So when we were establishing the partnership program in our first year, the initial strategy for figuring out who our first partners would be was to think about, okay, who's most engaged financially with EDUCAUSE now? And they might be good for consideration. So we had a list of, I think, 15 companies we thought might be interested in coming along with us on this journey. But not all of them, once we got into some of these calls with them, it was really clear that not all of them were going to be great partners or give the community what they needed, or they weren't necessarily the type of technology the community was concerned with at the time. So we were actually able to kind of pick and choose who our initial partners were going to be so that it was better aligned with what the needs of the community were at that time. Now, so a partnership program like this is so resource intensive, and so many companies would love to be partners of EDUCAUSE or aligned with our brand, but we can only, we have 21 partners this year, and it is max capacity for sure. Just to have that level of depth of relationship with that many companies is very challenging. So it's really important to make sure that the people who get those positions are the right ones for your community. And then one challenge we're going to have in the next few years is, as the needs of the community change, even though partners have been engaged for maybe several years, how do we kind of rotate that roster so that we know the community is always getting what they need?
That's such smart thinking, and it shows a lot of true care for your members and what they need to be willing to say, okay, this partner does not work. They might have money, but it's not what we all need.
How can we get them to spend that money somewhere else?
Right.
That's our problem. We're trying to think, okay, what else could we do with a really highly engaged organization that might, have things that pockets of our community need, but at that partner level in terms of creating really big solutions, the needs of the community are going to change. And so you have to adapt for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing you mentioned earlier was that bundling of options really helped. Your partners were happy to say, thank you. We just didn't know what we needed from all of this. What advice would you give other associations that are trying to go towards that and get away from these one-off, pick this, pick that sponsorship sales?
Yeah. So, it's super important to know what your portfolio is and I'm a data geek. So doing an analysis of what's selling, what seems, you can get a lot of insight from what people are already engaging with to determine what things are going to be high value or, just not as interesting. And then the most meaningful part of our evolution was, I felt like it might have been like a pre-sale kind of meeting. I mean, we spent about 6 months having maybe 3 or 4 meetings with any potential partner to really explain what our program is and determine whether or not they were going to be a right fit for us. But during those initial meetings, our first questions for them are, what are your goals in our community? How do you want to be seen? What types of, what technology challenges are keeping you up at night? And, where is your focus? And so the more we learned about their needs and what they were trying to accomplish in our community, we were able to determine like what an ideal package was going to be for them. So just to get into a little bit of detail, our packages have, a combination of some like marketing things, but also every partner gets what we had traditionally sold as like a major sponsorship item. And so they would get to participate in a research report or a professional learning activity or an event, sponsor an event or something like that. And that we have as sort of like a customizable puzzle piece in the partnership package, and having that initial conversation about what their needs were really helped us align that big puzzle piece to whatever was going to be most effective for them.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful. And, my big takeaway is that you talk to them to understand their needs. And I think that, there's so many associations that do the one-off that I think want to go down this road and might not know how. And I feel like right there, that's where you start, is understand what they need before you offer them something.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of time and commitment to, and hope to get to that end. But what we found was we were actually able to slow down on kind of like churning that a la carte sales, and it felt like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Kind of, you're constantly focusing on that. We really took a risk to scale back on that, and we weren't quite as focused on marketing it. We shifted our efforts towards these meetings, and it ended up where we were able to sell more valuable sponsorships. It actually didn't even matter that we weren't selling those a la carte things anymore, because we still have that as part of our portfolio, and we do sell them, but that's not where our main focus is, because This is a higher value target for us.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I love that. So crystal ball time, if we're going to look forward, what do you think associations really need to be doing differently to build these sustainable, mission-aligned, non-dues revenue programs? And where are you seeing the most potential?
I mean, I think, and the best thing any association can do is, in terms of sponsorship, if they're not doing it already, is root every decision in the member's need, and kind of use that as your starting point to identify what's going to bring the membership the most value, because that's ultimately going to be what is most successful for the corporate community as well, is when you're aligning those things. The other thing that has come out of our program, which I think could be really meaningful for any other association too, is bringing the community together in collaboration around the major challenges in their domain area. So part of this program, we established an event that is actually turning into more of a program called the Annual Partner Summit. And it was thought of initially as kind of a benefit to our partners. Okay, you can have 2 people come to this event, and there will be some higher ed leaders there, and it's a good opportunity for networking and meeting people. But the way we designed the event was to identify the most valuable vocal contributors of our community. So it's about a 100-person event. 2 members from every partner company get to go. We invited about 50 or 60 higher education leaders, and really intentionally considered who should be in this room. And it was invite only. And then about a third of the participants were also representatives from our peer association space. So running a college is like running a little city, and there are associations for every single function at the university. And IT touches all of them. So it only makes sense to have everyone who contributes to supporting technology and higher education in the room having a great conversation. And so we were able to uncover like major challenges that everyone has and so the goal in future years is to collaborate on solutions to those challenges and have the partner community work with the higher ed community on building those solutions. And everybody's feeling really great about the direction of this and excited to have the opportunity to like create new things that everyone needs. So I think like in terms of looking towards the future, get everybody together and figure out how to solve challenges together.
Yes. That's it. I love it. This has been so great. And I think you've shared so many awesome insights with our listeners and some really good takeaways that they can take back and hopefully move away from that one-off and transaction-based programs there. But before we let you go, we like to wrap up all of our podcasts with some just for fun questions so our listeners can get to know you a little bit. So our first one is, have you gotten to get away to anywhere fun lately?
I do feel like I've been on the road a lot lately. But I think the thing that I'm looking forward to most is in a few hours, I'm going to get in the car with my family and we're going to drive to the beach I used to go to as a child for the weekend. And I haven't really gotten to bring my children to that beach yet. And so I'm really excited for a little bit of a nostalgic weekend at the Jersey Shore with my family.
Oh, fantastic. I hope that's an amazing time. It sounds like it'll be wonderful. Awesome. So if you're a podcast listener, what are you listening to that you'd recommend our listeners tune in for?
Okay, so I have one. My favorite podcast is Revisionist History by Malcolm Gladwell. I haven't really been listening to podcasts lately, so I don't know what season he's on, but I definitely, whenever there's something there, I tend to binge it. My guilty pleasure is I am an older millennial, and so I was obsessed with watching Laguna Beach in the Hills, and Kristen Cavallari is just like one of my favorites, and she has a podcast now called Let's Be Honest, and I just, every Tuesday, that's like my ritual is whenever that comes up, I listen to that and listen to whatever she has to say about the life.
Okay, I need to check that out because I was obviously obsessed back in the day with those shows. So
yes.
I'll need to
She's a girl, she's, great mom, like leads her own company. I really admire everything she's done. So
fantastic.
Pay attention. Yep.
I love it. Awesome. What's one place in the US that you've never been to but are dying to go?
Ooh, that one. I do aspire to have visited all 50 states. I have visited, I think maybe 34 at this point.
Nice, you're getting there?
Yeah, getting there for sure. And we're planning on our big vacation next summer to go to Hawaii. And this is special to me because my grandfather was a Marine and he was stationed in Hawaii for 5 years when my mom was a child, and she has four siblings. Wow. So my mom and my aunts and uncles have talked about living in Hawaii my whole life. And I've always wanted to bring her back to see the places she went to as a child. So hopefully we'll make that happen next summer.
That's so cool. Oh, I love that. Okay, last one for you. Finish this sentence. When you see me looking at my phone, it probably means that I'm
either coordinating some kid logistics or looking at Instagram.
Yep.
Or doing the New York Times puzzles.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Leah, this was so much fun. And again, thank you for sharing such awesome insights with us. I appreciate you joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
That's a wrap for today's episode. The Association Insights Podcast, previously known as the Association 100 Podcast, is a production of Onward and Upward Marketing and Communications, where our mission is to make associations and nonprofits the go-to source in their industries through earned media and thought leadership. This podcast is an extension of our newsletter, a bi-monthly collection of best practices, top trends, helpful ideas, and smart strategies delivered straight to your inbox. Have you undertaken a big change at your association? Or do you have some words of wisdom from the trenches of association life? We want to hear from you, and so do our listeners. Drop us a note at info@onwardupward.com. That's info@onwrdupwrd.com. Be sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and share with your friends and colleagues. We're available anywhere podcasts are found. Come back next week for more association insights and inspiration. Thanks for tuning in.